So let's bring in veterans advocate Ryan Shaw and an affected veteran, Jack Holman, to tell us more about the importance of this program and what should be done in the time ahead. Ryan, how much of a help has the Step Up program been to injured veterans?
Well, thanks for having me on, Amanda. It's been quite significant because veterans have made the brave choice to enter into study, and they've done this to either upskill themselves or create greater employment opportunity. They've also done it to create a sense of purpose for themselves and direction during quite a difficult time of their life. They're quite vulnerable veterans in our community if they're on the incapacity payment program because they're out of work and their life is solely focused on their recovery and their injury. And this program, DVA stated that when it was first introduced a few years ago, that it would help hundreds of veterans. And our data is showing us that hundreds and hundreds of veterans will be impacted by this. And it was a step in the right direction, and it was a lifeline for a lot of veterans who wanted to get back into the workforce and increase their employability.
Jack, what has the Step Up program done for you as you've recovered from injury?
So, thanks, Amanda. So, the Step Up program has given myself an identity to pursue a professional career within the nursing industry for myself.
Jack, how would the axing of this program impact upon your life and your recovery?
So the axing of this program is going to affect me not only physically, but mentally as well. It's putting myself and many other veterans in a detrimental position. Many of us do not know where to look to for help, seeing as the support network is being taken away from under us.
Yeah, I think people underestimate how important it is for somebody who has been in a really structured service environment to have help in shaping a new identity and a new purpose for their time post their service of this nation. Ryan, this is just one program in the veteran space, but what is needed to deliver the lifetime wellbeing that the Productivity Commission suggested and that the Royal Commission has said needs to be backed in?
You're right, it is one of many programs that are out there. It's interesting you bring up the Royal Commission. The Defence and Veteran Suicide Royal Commission released an interim report the tail end of last year, and if you go to page 23 of that report, down the bottom it starts to talk about the idea to look to other countries for what they're doing in employment, social services and education for veterans. And it's worth noting that within the Five Eyes nations, all those other countries have a program for veterans entering into university or some sort of support for their study. And we are the only country that is cancelling our veteran support program during the middle of a Royal Commission into defence and veteran suicide. So it's quite disappointing, to be honest.
Really interesting to observe that Australia is an outlier in that international space. Ryan, there's a large body of research that shows that confidence about future employment prospects and the financial security that comes with it is really core to preventing the mental health issues that are much too common for veterans. Why do you think the government hasn't given this the ongoing commitment that it deserves?
Well, I can tell you what the Department of Veteran Affairs officials have told us and other representatives who've reached out to this. One of the reasons was that there wasn't enough employment outcomes for the program to continue its support. And I think given the fact that the program's still quite young and in its infancy, it's very short-sighted and naive to assume that there'd be significant data to support employee outcomes. But what there is there's a lot of evidence out there in the academic and industry community that supports the idea that university increases employment outcomes, it increases your financial capacity, and it increases your well-being and sense of purpose in the community. So there's a lot of data out there that suggests this. So I'm not sure why the government's suggesting that it doesn't increase employee outcomes, but I can almost say with certainty that it does.
It's always dangerous to cherry pick from the data, isn't it? Ryan, there's some studies that have revealed that the veteran unemployment rate is 5 times the national average, while underemployment of veterans is at a staggering rate of 20%. Why do our veterans fall short on employment and remuneration? Well,
this is probably one of the reasons is that the government cancels programs like this, but You're right, there is a significant shortfall in the workforce capacity provided for veterans, and I think that's largely due to the workforce misunderstanding a lot of the quality and control and quality assurance that comes with training a soldier or training a defence member, and even training leaders. And a lot of the skills that you receive in the Defence Force do translate quite effectively into the workforce, and especially into university. I spoke recently at a university about this particular issue, and it was quite interesting to see other veteran panel members bring up the same points around things like time management and discipline and the ability to follow instructions. They're just skills that you take for granted as a soldier because they're just part of everyday life, and they're not part of everyday life for everyone else. And it just takes reminding veterans that things like time management allow you to manage the burden of universities, exam timelines and assignments, and something as little as discipline allows a veteran to read the finer details of an assignment rubric and perform. And I think putting aside university, it's helping the workforce and the labour force understand a lot of the quality control and quality assurance that goes into training our soldiers and what they can offer to society.
Yeah, it sounds like the employer and market education piece is something really worth pursuing. What I like about this program is that it stops veterans from ignoring their mental and physical injuries for the sake of having to immediately stay at work to make ends meet. And it encourages them to, if they need to, pause and do what's needed to get better before throwing themselves back into the workforce and kind of just burying whatever problems there might be. Whether they're doing that to provide for their loved ones or to try and extract a sense of purpose as they fight mental health issues alone. What do you see, Ryan, as being the risk of putting an end to it so soon?
I think you've pretty much nailed it on the head there. The risk is they'll just go back to work and ignore their injuries, and they'll just get worse and worse and worse. And this program was a big opportunity for them to upskill themselves and move out of the risky situation that they were in. I think a good example would be, let's say you're in the infantry and you left the infantry and got a job as a security guard, and you can't do that due to a back injury, you can't standing up for extended periods of time. Going to university is an opportunity to pursue the next step in your career in maybe management, or even fulfilling the critical workforce requirements out there. I think our guest Jack is studying nursing at the moment. This is going to have a huge impact on him and his ability to fulfil that critical workforce requirement, because Jack's options are to either leave university or just go back to work and ignore his injuries. And getting better is a costly process. It costs a lot of money and it costs a lot of time. And if you have to deal with the anxiety, if you have to deal with the anxiety of finances, it just makes things even worse.
Well, Ryan, thank you so much for helping us understand this issue. And Jack, I think you're going to make an amazing nurse, and I wish you the very best as you chart out the next chapter of your life post-service. And thank you for all you've done for our country.